Something is happening in the global economy that feels slow at first, but is actually extremely fast when you step back and look at the bigger picture. Artificial intelligence is not just improving companies. It is beginning to question whether many traditional companies will remain relevant at all in the future. Not just less profitable, not just less competitive, but potentially obsolete. This is a strong claim, and it does not apply to every company equally. But it does point to a deeper shift in how value is created, delivered, and scaled in the AI era. For over a century, companies were built around one core idea: organize human labor to produce goods and services efficiently. That model worked in the industrial age, the service age, and even the early digital age. But AI changes the foundation of that model because AI does not just improve how companies operate. It replaces entire layers of what companies exist to do. To understand this shift, we need to understand what a traditional company actually is. At its core, a company is a coordination system. It takes inputs like labor, capital, and resources and converts them into outputs like products and services. The company exists to reduce inefficiency in human coordination. But artificial intelligence now performs coordination itself, and that changes everything. AI is beginning to automate not just tasks, but decision-making, communication, analysis, planning, and even strategy. These are the core functions that companies have historically relied on human management layers to handle. As AI systems improve, those layers become thinner, faster, and in some cases unnecessary. This is where the idea of obsolescence begins to appear. One of the clearest examples of this transformation is happening in knowledge work. For decades, companies relied heavily on large teams of workers to produce value. Marketing teams created campaigns, analysts studied data, customer service teams handled inquiries, developers wrote software, managers coordinated everything. Now AI can perform large portions of all of these roles. This does not mean humans disappear from companies, but it does mean the structure of companies changes dramatically. A small team using AI tools can now produce what once required entire departments. This creates a new kind of competitive pressure. Companies that adapt become extremely efficient. Companies that do not adapt become slow and expensive. And in markets, slow and expensive is a disadvantage that compounds over time. One of the biggest forces driving this change is software automation. AI is turning software into something far more powerful than traditional tools. Instead of software being a passive tool that waits for human input, AI makes it active. It can analyze, generate, decide, and execute. This means entire software workflows can now be automated end-to-end. Tasks that once required multiple employees can now be handled by a single AI system running continuously in the background. Companies like Microsoft, Google, and Amazon are already embedding AI deeply into their ecosystems, not just as features, but as core operational layers. And this leads to a major question: if software can now perform work, what is the role of companies built around managing human work? Another major shift is happening in customer interaction. Traditional companies rely on customer service departments, sales teams, and support centers. These functions are expensive and scale linearly with customer growth. More customers usually means more staff. AI breaks this limitation. AI systems can handle millions of customer interactions simultaneously in real time without fatigue, delays, or increased cost per interaction. This means customer-facing operations can scale almost infinitely without traditional hiring models. This removes one of the biggest constraints that companies have faced historically: scaling human interaction. Another critical transformation is happening in decision-making. Companies exist largely to make decisions under uncertainty. What to produce, how to price it, where to invest, how to market, and how to compete. Traditionally, these decisions were made by executives using experience, intuition, and partial data. Now, AI systems can analyze vast datasets in real time and support or even automate many of these decisions. This includes forecasting demand, optimizing pricing, managing inventory, and predicting customer behavior. When decision-making becomes automated, the role of traditional management structures begins to change. Instead of layers of managers making decisions, companies may shift toward AI-driven systems, with humans acting as overseers rather than primary decision-makers. This introduces a new organizational model where intelligence is embedded into the company itself, rather than concentrated in leadership roles. At that point, the definition of a company begins to blur. Another important factor is cost structure. Traditional companies scale by adding people. More output requires more employees, more coordination, and more overhead. This creates friction in growth. AI removes much of this friction. A company powered by AI can increase output without increasing headcount at the same rate. This creates exponential efficiency advantages compared to traditional companies that still rely heavily on human labor. Over time, this creates a widening gap between AI native companies and traditional companies. And in competitive markets, that gap is critical because customers naturally migrate toward faster, cheaper, and more efficient providers. There is also a deeper structural change happening in how companies are built. Historically, companies were organized into departments: marketing, finance, operations, HR, engineering, and customer support. Each department had its own processes and human teams. AI is breaking down these boundaries. Instead of departments, companies are beginning to operate as integrated systems where AI handles coordination across functions. This creates more fluid, adaptive organizations that respond faster to market changes. In some cases, this could reduce the need for traditional organizational hierarchies altogether. Another major shift is happening in entrepreneurship. Starting a company used to require capital, employees, infrastructure, and time. Now AI reduces those barriers significantly. A single individual with AI tools can create software, generate marketing content, build websites, analyze markets, and automate operations. This leads to the rise of micro companies or AI-native startups that can scale rapidly without traditional structures. These companies can compete with much larger organizations in certain niches because they are faster, more flexible, and far more efficient. This introduces new competitive pressure on traditional companies from below, not just from large corporations. But perhaps the most important transformation is psychological. Consumers are beginning to expect AI-level efficiency everywhere. Instant responses, personalized experiences, zero friction, continuous optimization. Traditional companies that cannot meet these expectations risk being seen as outdated, even if their products are still functional. This creates a perception gap that accelerates obsolescence, because in modern markets, perception often determines survival. There is also a major shift in data usage. AI systems improve with data, and companies that integrate AI deeply into their operations gain access to continuous feedback loops. This allows them to optimize products, pricing, and customer experience in real time. Traditional companies that do not use AI lack this adaptive capability. They operate on slower feedback cycles, which puts them at a disadvantage in fast-moving markets. Over time, this difference compounds, and compounding differences eventually become structural separation between winners and losers. However, it is important to understand that obsolete does not mean every traditional company disappears. It means their role changes. Some companies will evolve into AI-native organizations, some will be absorbed into larger ecosystems, some will shrink and specialize, and some will fail to adapt and disappear entirely. This pattern has repeated in every major technological revolution. During the Industrial Revolution, many manual production businesses disappeared or transformed into factories. During the Internet Revolution, many offline businesses lost relevance unless they adapted digitally. Now, during the AI revolution, companies that rely heavily on human-only processes are facing a similar turning point. But this time, the speed of change is faster, much faster. And that speed is what makes this transformation more disruptive than previous ones, because adaptation time is shrinking, and companies that cannot adapt quickly enough may not have the time to recover. In the long run, the most successful organizations will not necessarily be the largest or oldest. They will be the ones that integrate AI most effectively into their core structure. Companies that treat AI as an add-on will struggle. Companies that treat AI as the foundation of their entire system will dominate. And companies that fail to adopt it at all may eventually become irrelevant. So the real question is not whether AI will change companies. That is already happening. The real question is how many traditional companies will survive long enough to complete the transition. Because in this new economy, intelligence is not just a tool for companies. It is becoming the company itself.